Hey everybody, James from Type here, and today we're doing a type grid walkthrough. We're just going to look at the type grid and we're going to kind of do a walkthrough on what it means, how it works, and what it is. So the type grid is a way of organizing the 16 personality types in a way where they fit in and you can kind of see their different elements, how they relate to each other, what they are similar to one another in it, and what they're kind of different in as well. So the type grid was created by C.S. Joseph to kind of combine the theories of Dr. Linda Behrens, Dr. David Keirsey, and Dr. John Beebe, and of course, as everybody knows, Dr. Carl Jung. So combining these different theories into a type grid, we've done our own kind of version here, but it's really just a reorganization, and it kind of just looks at these different elements. So let's look at it. If you haven't seen one of these before, that's totally okay. If you know your type, that's great. If you don't know your type, that's okay as well. We'll walk through kind of what the differences and similarities are. So let's start with one of the ways that the type grid is organized. And one way it's organized is in temperament. So we have right on the top here, we have temperament, and that's one of the ways that the type grid is organized. I'll use a pen there too, temperament right up there. Sorry for any of my poor artistic skills, but I was never great at art. So we have the idealists, we have the NF types. So what that means is that NF types are idealist types. They are abstract, which means they are future focused. They are affiliative, which means they care about working together and teams with each other, being part of kind of that social world. And they're interest-based, which means they look at individual motives and win-win situations. But that's a little less important to worry about right now. But basically, NFs are anybody, as you can see here, with their second and third letter being N and F. So these types all are the idealist temperament. So they would have these elements, all of them. So that's kind of the first way you can look at these different types and how they're categorized. Secondly, we can look at the temperament again, and we can look at intellectuals. So they are NT types, as we can see, with the NT being the second and third letter. All of these types share these traits in common right down here. They are all future focused and abstract. Of course, they are N types. They are pragmatic, which means they like to work individually, pragmatically. They like to work in a way which isn't just having to kind of work with others, but can work alone in a way that is efficient. So they are pragmatic. They're also systematic, which means they look at the overall system of society. They see how things work. They don't just look at individual pieces, they look at the overall system. So that's kind of another different way of explaining it. So that's how we can categorize all of these types right down here. And then we have the artisan temperament, which is the SP types. So that is second and fourth. And why it changes, that all has to do with the way the letters are connected to the function. So don't worry about it too much right now. I can explain that later. But the SP types are concrete, which means they're focused on what is and what has been. They are pragmatic as well, just like the NT types. They like to work kind of individually. And they are interest-based, so that is kind of more like the NF types. As you can see here, they worry about what individual people are getting out of situations, their motives, in the individual pieces that make up the system instead of the system as a whole. So it's the pieces versus the system. And then we have, finally, the guardian temperament, which is SJ. So that is S and then J, as you can see right down here. And what that makes up is these elements right here. So concrete, focused on what is, just like SPs. They are affiliative, which focuses on the interdependent world, working with others, just like the NFs. And they are systematic right there. So just like the NTs, they're focused on the system. As you can kind of see here, all of the different temperaments share and are different in different elements depending on which one they are. So when you're looking at how to categorize your letters, your type, this is one way you can kind of see it. All right, that's awesome. And a lot of this stuff has to do with the functions. Like we see the NF types, their first two functions are feeling and intuition functions, right? Same with the NT types. First two functions are thinking and intuition functions. SP types all have SE as their top two functions, and SJs all have SI as one of their top two functions. So it's a kind of way of organizing it with regards to functions as well. If you're connecting the type grid, you want to see how all of these different pieces fit together. And then secondly, we can look at interaction style, so how people interact with the world. First, we have the structure types. So these types, often leaders, often managers, often run projects, direct others around. They're direct, which means they're directive. They are straight to the point. They communicate clearly and effectively and in as few words as possible. They are initiating, which means they initiate topics. They initiate new conversation. They like to bring things up. They like to talk to other people. And they're control, which means they like to have order, control. They are very focused on making sure, you know, the structure is in place and that things are in control, things are not too chaotic. They're kind of like the roof. If you're seeing, you know, these types as a house right here, I'll explain this kind of in a second. Sorry for that kind of, actually that's probably not the greatest way to do it, but we can look at just these two right now. They're kind of the roof. They are that structure that holds everything in place, and so they are focused on those elements. And then we have starter types. These types are informative, meaning they give extra information. They're initiating, which is just like structure types. They go to other people, they initiate conversation easily. And they're progression types, so these types progress things. So as the structure types are all of these types, sorry if I didn't mention that, the starter types are all of these types. So it's just in these lines right here. Awesome. So then we have finisher types. Oops, a little bit of a zoom in there. Then we have finisher types. So they are direct, just like the structure types, but they're responding. So they do not initiate within conversation. They are responding types, or introverts, which means their introverted functions are first. Oops, highlighted the wrong one there. First and third, if you want to know. But first and third are introverted functions, just like for these. First and third would be extroverted. So there's lots of ways of using the type grids to kind of learn about the differences between the types. And they're progression types as well, which means they like to progress projects. They like to move things forward. They like chaos. They like movement, just like starter types. So starter types will start a project, finisher types will finish it, structure types will oversee it, and background types will support it. So that's what I was talking about, like the house, right? So we have the supporting nature of the background types, who are informative, responding, and control. They keep control and order, but they do it from the background, behind the scenes, whereas structure types are in the limelight. They're in the front, leading the charge. And starter types are kind of, you know, the beginning, you know, of, I guess, the structure of the house, whereas the finisher, and these specific types don't mean anything. But if we're looking at kind of a house analogy here, and we have that the background types be that kind of floor, that like base structure that kind of supports everything, really important. And we have the starter types who kind of start the project, and then we have the finisher types who finish it, and then we have the structure types who can kind of oversee everything and make sure that everything is good and in control. So we have the control types kind of sandwiching in the progression types who are more chaotic and moving, where we have these kind of control types which kind of stay the same. And I apologize for that background noise. It sounds like a scooter on meth or something out there. I'm not quite sure what that is. So anyways, so that's kind of the way of looking at the interaction styles. And we can see how these interaction styles and temperaments kind of are very categorical. So we know that background types are all of these, structure types are all of these. You know, if you want to know, you know, what am I? Let's say I'm an ENFJ. Okay, well, I know I'm an idealist, and I know I'm a structure type. So you can look right down there for your elements, and right here for your functions. So you can kind of see your functions. And then we have little cheat codes around the type grid as well. So right down here, if you are an NJ and those are your letters, if you're kind of, you know the letters, you know a couple of different, you know, friends who have the letters, you got the letters, that's a great starting point. That's where I started from. So if you're trying to connect the letters to the temperaments, connect it to the interaction styles, connect it to the functions, we have some little cheat codes down here. So if you're an NJ, meaning, here, I'll bring an NJ up. You have an N and then a J. You would have NI first and then SE second in your stack. And that kind of works for all these types. These are kind of the perceiving function cheat code. And then over here, we have the judging function cheat code. I'm not quite sure. Sorry, I honestly downloaded this program or found this program like 20 minutes ago, so I don't know how to use it yet. But we have TPs, and all that means is that that's their last two letters, and that's how you figure out their judging functions. So TPs have TI first and FE second. So if you're kind of wanting to find these cheat codes, let's say you're an ISFP, for example, and you're like, okay, what are my functions? I'm an ISFP. Well, you're an SP, which means SE will come first, NE will come next. You're an FP, so, do a little ring around the rosy there. For an FP, then you know FI will come first and TE will come last. So you know the order of your functions already. And since you're an introvert, you know FI will be the first, then SC, and then NI, and then TE. So you can organize it that way. You can also just look right here. We have the first four order. Shadow is just those flipped. So if you know FI, SE, NI, TE, you know FE, SI, NE, TI as the 5th to 8th. So that's a little bit of a cheat code in if you're looking for shadow. But Type grid doesn't cover just shadow, it covers, you know, many different things. Oh, I see that going back removes these. Okay, so let's remove these here. So when you're looking at the type grid, there's lots of different kind of things you can learn. We have the kind of elements up here for fun, Ni being more associated with fire and passion, Ne being associated with flexibility and, you know, being able to change and move, Se being associated with physics and physically changing things like wind, and Si being the earth, the ground, the rock, you know, that's very stable. So if you're wanting to know, you know, I'm an ESTJ, which one do I have more? Okay, you know that you have Si more, so you know that you're more like, you know, a mountain, or you can use that kind of abstract way. And then you have these cheat codes down here to connect the functions to the letters. You have everything right on the right there to connect you to your interaction style, and you have everything up here to connect you to your temperament. So there's lots of different ways of using this grid. You can use this for, you know, understanding compatibility, like, okay, I'm an INFP, so these are my functions, you know, I'm compatible with people with FE. So I go over here, I go, okay, here's someone with FE, so I have some emotional compatibility with this type. Or you might go, okay, I'm an INFJ, so I know that I'm, you know, a finisher type. Oh, okay, INTJs are also finisher types. These types are also direct and responding, but unlike me, they're pragmatic. So you can use this kind of grid to start understanding how you're similar and different to others. If you're an ENTP, let's say up here, then you would go, okay, I know that I'm abstract, and I also know that all of these types are abstract. So those have, you know, kind of that compatibility. I also know I'm pragmatic, but these types are pragmatic over here. So now I know that we share that, and how you're different to different types. So you can really start to understand, you know, kind of the similarities and differences you have to different types. You can start looking at your functions, going, you know, I have TI as my second function. You know, who else has TI as their second function? Okay. Oh, there we go. I know that ESTPs have TI as their second function, so I have a similarity. Oh, look at that circle right there. There we go. So I know that I have TI as my second function, and I am an ETP. So you can start to kind of learn how the letters connect to the functions, which is really great because you want that deeper understanding of the functions. The letters are just kind of the baseline. Connect it to the functions, connect it to these, you know, temperaments and interaction styles right up here. Temperaments here, interaction styles there. And you can start to learn more about yourself. Go, okay, I'm an INFJ, so I know I'm direct. I know that I'm straight to the point. I know these types are also direct. I know that I'm responding, which means I respond to initiation. I'm an introverted type. I have introverted function as my first function. So do these types. You can start learning about so many different things. You can go, okay, I'm a finisher, which means I'm compatible with starter types because they start, I finish. If you're a background type, well, you're compatible with structure types in many ways because you support from behind the scenes, they support and lead from in front. So it's kind of like that sandwich analogy like I was talking about. So lots of different ways you can use this type grid. If you guys are interested in more, I'm happy to go into more. You can think about compatibility. You can find functional compatibility, for example, like if you know your functions are this, you know you're compatible with somebody whose functions are like this. You know, oh, it's getting a little messy. I'll delete these. But you would know, you know, this type is compatible with this type. You know, and they're also compatible with this type, and you can start to see some of these compatibilities, like this type would be then compatible with this type and this type. So you can start to kind of learn who you're compatible with, what's their interaction style, what's their temperament, how does that work. If you want more information on all of this kind of stuff, I have an advanced guide coming out which will explain the type grid in extreme detail. We also have a handbook which will explain all of these elements in detail, which is free. So the handbook's free on our site, ontype.ca/handbook. And we have lots of content. We have the type grid on our Instagram channel, OnType Team. We have lots of different content explaining it, but we can do more. We can always do more, explaining more in depth if you guys are interested in this or how it works, or if you want to just know more about the elements and what they actually mean. I'm happy to do more videos on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment below if you even got to the end here, because I'm sure it's a very long video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.